Hey everyone, Yuri Godard here for the third week of our series, It's Personal. And today I want to tell you a real life story that happened. Okay, we were all going to a retreat, and it was a few hours that we were in a bus, and it was about 50 youth inside of that one bus. We were a really big youth, so there were about 300 youth. And halfway through the trip, someone pooped in their pants, and then someone else vomited. And it was like really bad. It was really bad. It was really bad smell. And people started making fun of the poor guy that pooped his pants. And the guy ended up being like really isolated throughout the whole retreat, which was very sad. During the retreat, there was a message about family, of which many people got very conscious about themselves and their own families, and we prayed for families, we prayed for their families, and specifically that guy that pooped himself. He was there on the corner, quiet, but you could really see that he was really getting the message, he was really receiving everything. And I went to find out a little bit more about him. He was actually not a Christian. He was actually not someone that would go to church very often, and he had serious problems in his family. And then I just came to, get to know him better and try to get to, to connect with him, to perhaps help him and so on. And I tried it for a while, but it didn't really work. After the retreat, he went back home, and I don't remember him coming back, even though I did try to contact him. So years go by. His brother was from our youth group, but he never really said much or did much. He was just there as well. Marlon was his name. Years went by, and we found out that there was a really serious family situation there, and that his brother really needed help, but never ended up getting the help that he needed. So about 5 years later, I found out that his brother had been killed because he was involved with drugs. So it was a very sad news for Marlon. It was a very sad news for us to hear as well. And especially for me, because I saw firsthand that young man pooped himself, and nobody wanted to be his friend. Nobody wanted to get to know him. Nobody wanted to be friends with him. And because of that situation, he never really came back to church. Because he never really came back to church, his life ended up taking a really bad turn. Started using drugs. His family situation was terrible. He didn't have anyone to reach out to, and even his brother that tried to bring him to the retreat in the hope that he would make friends didn't really manage to get it, because a lot of people started making fun of him, and he, never really came back. And here's the thing I want to say. We often assume we know these people and their stories. We assume we know them just because we know their names or what they're good at or what they're into. Many of us confuse following someone on Instagram with actually knowing their story. Their Instagram story is not their personal story. I have made that mistake in my life, okay? And I don't want to make it again. And that happened with this young man, Marlon's brother. I really tried to reach out to him. It didn't work. But it didn't work because he was ashamed and everybody was making fun of him. And the reality is we are all guilty, of assuming that everybody is fine, until we actually know their stories. There are things in people's lives that we may never be aware of, and because we just see the person outside. We never know the backstory. We never know the deep things. We also have a backstory. Each one of us has a story that comes with family dynamics, friends, things that have happened to us, hurts and wounds that we carry, all the good and all the bad things intertwined into the story of our lives. Most of us know our own stories very well, and in those moments where you might break down and cry or lash out at a friend in anger, we look for people to understand our stories better in hopes that they can understand us. We say things like, if they only knew what kind of morning I had. They don't know what I'm dealing with at home. Or I couldn't sleep last night because I was so worried. Has it ever happened to you? It has happened to me. I'm angry all the time and I'm not even sure why I am this angry. That has happened to me as well. This might be true for us, but we forget to think about that step in the moments when our friends lash out in anger or a family member is rude to us. Immediately we get upset with them, but have you ever taken a moment to sit back and wonder why they might have snapped at you? We have all had those mornings, the morning where you oversleep, spill your coffee down in the front shirt, and things like that. Miss the time for school. I don't know if you've ever gotten to that place, and yes, I have, and it's not nice. But the reality is, we never know what people are facing. We rarely try to understand their backstory, and because of that, we miss out on being personal with them and knowing the story of who they are. Over and over in the New Testament, we see Jesus take the time to understand the people he met. He took the time to have conversations and share meals with people, no one else would spend time with. Jesus looked for the opportunities to get personal with people. We have been talking a man named Zacchaeus and how Jesus walks into his life. Zacchaeus was not exempt to how Jesus impacted the lives of the people that he interacted with. Let's check it out. Think about what Jesus does to try to know Zacchaeus. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, "Quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and in great joy. So this is Jesus, and he walks in and he says, "Hey, I want to know you. Let's have a meal." So what Jesus was doing is that he was taking the time to enter into Zacchaeus' everyday context. Jesus knew it was risky, but he also knew that there was more to Zacchaeus than what everyone in town thought they understood about him. But the people were displeased. "He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner," they grumbled. It clearly didn't go over well with some of the people in town. They were all talking about it. The thing about Jesus is he didn't conform to the world's standards. He was looking to connect with Zacchaeus on a greater level. Jesus didn't care what the townspeople were saying. He wanted to step into the place Zacchaeus was most comfortable, his home, as I tried with the guy that everybody called the poopy guy. Said, your space, your home, where you let your guard down. It was the place that Jesus knew he could get closer to Zacchaeus and learn more about the man Zacchaeus was. Where we live is more than our physical address. Understanding our circumstances and situations in the window into who we really are. There is a part of our story that not everyone gets invited into. But here is the thing. Jesus is God. He already knew Zacchaeus' backstory, but Jesus spending time in Zacchaeus' home makes it all more personal. He was able to connect with Zacchaeus in a way the crowd was not willing to. Jesus showed that he wanted to get to know Zacchaeus in a bigger way, to really understand him, and he did it by getting personal and showing up where Zacchaeus lived. When it comes to understanding our own stories and the stories of other people, we can take a look at the life of Jesus as he sought out ways to get personal with people and to understand their stories. Take a look at this verse in Philippians. It says there, "You must have the same attitude that Christ Jesus had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a servant and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on the cross." Philippians 2, 5-8. Jesus stepped into our world as a human. He walked the earth to step into our story, to experience our world and where we live. Jesus made God personal for us. When we read the story of Jesus, we forget the moments that allow Jesus to understand and connect with our own stories. The same exact moments from your story may not have happened to him, but we can't forget that as human, Jesus was once a baby and went to the bathroom and cried all night just like once we did. He had to deal with his siblings. He was forgotten by his parents. Seriously, they left him. It happened. He experienced loss as one of his best friends died. He questioned his purpose. He dealt with people ridiculing him and doubt. He knows. He knows the hurts you carry, the worry you have. He knows the doubt you have in him, and the things that keep you up all night sometimes. He knows your hopes, your dreams, and your prayers. But he doesn't simply know them. He wants to step into a home, the place that is personal to you, and wants you to know that he doesn't just know your story. He understands it. Here's the truth, okay? Jesus understands your story. Since he can understand our stories, we can take steps in our lives to connect with him, connect with ourselves, and connect with others. Let's get real for a second. It can be hard to let people into our lives and let people know where we live. It can be easy to hold on to our secrets because we don't want people to judge us. We think in our minds about the responses that other people will have to our stories, to our lives, so we hold tight to them. Sometimes we can even feel that our stories are too big to handle ourselves. How can we expect someone else to get it? The beautiful thing is when we can begin to boldly share our stories with other people, it gives them the sense of permission to share their stories too. So where do we start? Here are a few ideas, okay? For some of you, your first step is to wrestle with the idea and knowledge that Jesus knows you, all the pieces of you, and that he wants to step into your story. That he can understand your story, your situation, your emotions, and he loves you. Jesus knew Zacchaeus. He knew all the rumors about his life, how he was an outcast and from his community, how people hated him for his job, and how he treated others. Jesus knew that, but also knew that there was more to the story of Zacchaeus. Jesus wants to step into your life, wants to get personal with you just as he did with Zacchaeus. For others, your next step is to let someone else into your story. I don't think it should be some random stranger, but someone you know already, that you know has your back, and someone you want to share your story with. This is a huge step. We get it. What if you knew that they already cared about you, they were for you, and wanted to understand your story more? Why not start within the small group? Talking to the small group leader, talking to me, just to talk, just to share your backstory. Why not share a little more with, even the whole small group, so that they know you? This is a huge step, but what if you could give the shift of allowing someone to go second by being first to share? Talk about your backstory. Allow the group to see who you are when you are not with them. When you share your backstory, you are opening the door for someone else to have the freedom to also share their backstory. Allowing someone to see who you are behind closed doors can allow you to make connections with people you might have never connected with before. And the thing that makes you feel different could be the thing that connects you with someone else. Then, for others, it's time for you to really understand the story of other people. We have to create safe spaces in our lives to get to know others. We often act like the crowds towards Zacchaeus. We see what is on the outside, see his actions, and we pass judgment on other people because of it. Maybe it's how someone dresses, their reputation, or how they have a different culture than you, or simply because you aren't sure what you both have in common. Take this step to get personal with someone else and understand their story, to listen and to actually hear them for who they are. Our lives can change when we allow people to see who we are, to understand our stories, and even more when we can begin to understand the stories of others. And how I wished I could go back in time and talk to that man and be friends with him. Blessings.